If you went to the movies recently and saw a canine pilot in an Arwing tearing across the screen, you felt a jolt that went way beyond typical fan service. That cameo in the Super Mario Galaxy movie wasn't only a nod to a beloved game character, it was a tribute to an experience that felt impossibly smooth and polished back in 1997. A game where characters were screaming at you with real voices.
Do a barrel roll!
And your hands were shaking from a piece of plastic buzzing away, stuck in the base of your controller. That was Starfox 64, and in this video, we're going to dig into why this cartridge hasn't really aged a day in nearly 3 decades. From the genius of its branching paths, to a little piece of trivia about Andross's true form that even hardcore fans often miss. And we have to talk about why that movie moment proves this game is more relevant now than ever. So let's jump in. I want you to rewind with me for a second to the early 90s. Starfox on the SNES was a miracle. It was a low-poly fever dream made possible by that crazy Super FX chip inside the cart. Back then, I genuinely thought that was it. That was peak gaming. There was nowhere to go from there. Then the N64 came along and took that blueprint and made it feel like the actual future. That first moment you fire up Corneria, you're not looking at flat, untextured triangles anymore. You're seeing a planet with sky, with water reflecting the light, and a massive carrier ship swooping in. That was the moment the original game's memory went from classic to an adorable relic in my brain. The team over at Nintendo, under Miyamoto, took about 60% of what worked from the original, added 30% from the cancelled Star Fox 2 project, and then added that final 10% of pure Hollywood polish. That polish isn't only the look, though. Here's where it gets interesting. If you played it back in the day, you can hear those voices in your head right now. Falco's smug attitude, Slippy's desperate panic, Peppy telling you to do something that became one of the earliest internet memes.
Do a barrel roll! Do a barrel roll!
Most people just remember the catchphrases, but here's what most players don't realize about why the audio works so well. It was a strategic gameplay tool. In Star Fox 64, you actually heard it. You've got Slippy screaming,
"Fox, get this guy off me!"
That audio cue is your radar. It pulls your eyes to the action instead of darting down to the corner of the screen. The developers originally tried to voice the characters themselves. There's a lost dub out there from the old data leaks, where the programmers were doing a gruff Fox impression and trying to sound menacing as Leon. It's hilariously bad. Thank goodness they brought in actual voice acting talent. In the soundtrack, Koji Kondo gave the Lylat System a score that sounds like a militaristic space opera. Now that we've got the look and sound down, let's talk about the real reason you're still playing this and not just watching it. The gameplay loop is really clever. Yeah, on the surface, Star Fox 64 is just a rail shooter. You fly forward, you shoot stuff, simple. The tricky part is that you can play this game 100 times and have a different experience each session because the level design is really a secret web. You start on Corneria, easy enough, but if you save Falco from the chase in the first half of the level, he doesn't just say thanks. He leads you through a waterfall, and suddenly, you're not fighting the easy boss. You're on a path to Sector Y and, eventually, the harder, more intense side of the galaxy. That's not even a menu choice. That's earned through gameplay. That's where the magic lives. That's step 1 of the replay loop. Step 2 is where the game shifts from a fun Saturday morning cartoon to a hardcore score attack. Every level has a hidden hit target. If you blast enough enemies and keep the whole team alive, you get the medal. And if you're like me, you probably saw that mission complete screen with the standard blue score and thought, good enough. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Getting all the medals unlocks expert mode, and not just a harder difficulty slider. Fox puts on his big boy sunglasses and your Arwing becomes so vulnerable to enemy fire, it feels like the wings are made out of paper mache. And the medal requirements skyrocket. And then there's Venom. This is the deep-cut trivia that separates the tourist from the real Lylat veterans. You can fight Andross 2 ways. If you take the easy route through Bolse, then you fight a giant robot base. It's fun. It's a decent boss fight. You blow it up and go home. But if you're good enough to navigate the hellscape that is Area 6, you get to the planet's core and you have to tear away the metal. And what's left isn't a monkey, it's a giant, pulsating brain. That's the true, grotesque Andross. That reveal, that switch from a sci-fi puppet show to bodily horror, is why this game stuck with us. It really had layers. And speaking of sticking around, this game's relevance in 2026 is something no one could have predicted back in the 90s. Think about that legacy for a second. This game sits on a console alongside Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64. That's like the Mount Rushmore of gaming. And Star Fox 64 holds its own because it's pure, unapologetic fun. It's not a 60-hour epic, it's a perfect 45-minute adrenaline shot. And the world has clearly not forgotten. Earlier this year, in 2026, we saw the Super Mario Galaxy movie, and amidst all the Rainbow Road chaos, who comes tearing through a warp hole in Arwing? Fox McCloud. Not a silent cameo, a full-blown Glenn Powell-voiced dogfighting sequence. He's the one who distracts the bulk of Bowser's forces, so the plumbers can do their thing. And of course, the movie couldn't resist. They gave Toad that line.
Do a barrel roll!
Become so strong, Fox.
Seeing that on screen, seeing Rosalina fix up the Arwing and send him back to his own dimension, it was more than fan service. It was a reminder that this character, this specific game from 1997, cemented Fox McCloud as a cornerstone of Nintendo cool. And I want to leave you with a memory that isn't in the instruction manual. The first time I played this wasn't just a rental, it was at a friend's house and he had the box with that chunky gray Rumble Pak. I grabbed the controller, hit the boost, and when the ship shook for the first time, that was it. That was the moment I knew video games were about to become something much bigger than they were. It wasn't just seeing the 64-bit graphics, it was actually feeling them. And that vibration of the controller fighting back as you barrel rolled through the asteroid field, that's a kind of 90s magic that a lot of modern games just can't replicate. If you've never chased down that hard mode Andross brain, or if you haven't visited the 64-bit version of Lylat since the days of dial-up internet, maybe it's time to fire up the Switch Online app, or dig that old cart out of the attic. Totally worth your time today. And have you seen the new Super Mario Galaxy movie? Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. You know, I really do read them all. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up for me, and subscribe for a retro gaming break whenever you need it. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.